What's up, sons? It's Blind Rod with Son of a Tech once again, and today we have yet another talking head video. Yes, I do have a more serious tone. Yes, it's pretty late, but this is extremely important. I was going to save it for the crypto morning show in the morning, obviously Monday through Friday at 9:45 a.m. Central Time, 10:45 a.m. Eastern. So definitely stop by there. We will be talking about this more in depth. But your crypto is at risk, and I'm going to go over essentially if you have any options at this point to protect that crypto, as we preach on the channel religiously. At this point, not your keys, not your crypto. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't listen to that, but it does get a lot worse too, because the fact is, ETH is a sinking ship as far as this goes, and it does have the potential to affect all of decentralized finance for the most part. And even if you control your Ethereum keys, well, it won't matter much once Ethereum basically goes under, and that is potential here. It is a similar situation to the Terra Luna UST situation. We're going to go over all the details. And of course, this is spurred on by Celsius Network just recently, about an hour ago, going ahead and pausing all withdrawals. Most of this is going to be specifically surrounding ETH and the merge and proof of stake, which we could basically point to for everything that's going on here. So let's get into it right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is myself. To support the channel, click the join button below the video and you will get access to our privately hosted Rocket Chat. Selecting the $1.99 option will get you access, and after that you need to head over to the membership tab, scroll down, and expand out your membership perks. Find the section for connecting on social media, and in that section there will be a secret registration URL to join Rocket Chat, where you can sign up to enjoy talking with other cryptocurrency enthusiasts and miners without spammers, scammers, or bots. Welcome back, everybody. So you probably already know that the crypto markets are crashing, right? If we go ahead and take a look at coin market cap here, Bitcoin is down 7% for the day, 17% for the past 7 days. If you look at something like Ethereum, it's much worse. It's 7% for the day. However, it's down 27% for the past 7 days. Now, I don't mean for all of this to be FUD, but you need to be aware of exactly what's happening here. And that is that Bitcoin does have itself in a position that's separated from Ethereum, because for the most part, it doesn't participate within Ethereum. However, it will be affected still, because the fact of the matter is all of decentralized finance right now is pretty much powered by Ethereum, whether you like it or not. And that's because all of the represented versions of other cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin included, that are being staked on various platforms, whether they be centralized or decentralized, are wrapped on Ethereum. And this causes a unique issue, especially once you get into the centralized forms of decentralized finance. And I know that sounds a little funny, but basically you need to understand that a decentralized form of DeFi, which obviously should always be decentralized because it's in the name, would allow you to control the keys to, of course, your Ethereum wallet, which is where you would add in your staking. Yes, the numbers, the APY, the amount you're earning, is typically a lot less than competitors that are centralized. Centralized options, obviously, here are going to include things like Celsius Network, Coinbase, Crypto.com, etc. And you need to understand the difference between that is essentially, did you memorize a 12 to 24 seed phrase? Because if you didn't, then it's not your crypto. And it is not, in fact, decentralized finance. They're just using that term to get you to go ahead and participate, right? They're using that keyword for Google search to reel you in and take your crypto assets and reinvest them while you give them to them, and then pump up your APY. That's what they tell you, at least. And unfortunately, what ends up happening are situations like this. So what happened, right? In a recent tweet we got from Celsius Network, they said they're pausing all withdrawals, swap, and transfers between accounts. Acting in the interest of their community is their top priority. Our operations will continue, and we will continue to share information with the community. They do have more here in essentially a blog post. They go on to say, we are riding with a very important message for our community. Due to extreme market conditions today, we are announcing that Celsius is pausing all withdrawals, swap, and transfers between accounts. We are taking this action today to put Celsius in a better position to honor over time its withdrawal obligations. Acting in the interest of our community is our top priority. In service of that commitment and to adhere to our risk management framework, we have activated a clause in our terms of use that will allow for this process to take place. Celsius has valuable assets and we are working diligently to meet our obligations. We are taking this necessary action for the benefit of our entire community in order to stabilize liquidity and operations while we step to preserve and protect assets. Furthermore, customers will continue to accrue rewards during the pause in line with our commitment to our customers. We understand that news is difficult, but we believe that our decision to pause withdrawals, swap, and transfers between accounts is the most responsible action we can take to protect our community. We are working with a singular focus to protect and preserve assets to meet our obligations to customers. Our ultimate objective is stabilizing liquidity and restoring withdrawals, swap, and transfers between accounts as quickly as possible. There's a lot of work ahead as we consider various options. This process will take time and there may be delays. We thank the incredible Celsius community for their support today, and it is their pleasure to serve you. Our operations continue, and we will continue to share information with the community as it becomes available. What you need to understand here is that regardless of the amount that you're earning while it's locked up, the value, right, the actual price of all of these currencies are starting to take a dive. And what is happening is that primarily what you have is an issue with Ethereum. We saw this coming last week. We talked about it on the show, right? And just to be clear, when we're talking about Celsius in particular, it is technically, centralized. You log in, you do your KYC, all that. That's cool. You don't have a 12 to 24 seed phrase, so you're not controlling any funds that are in there. Otherwise, you'd be able to withdraw them at your will, as opposed to if you use something like Uniswap. At that point, you could pull out at any point. Of course, there is still the threat of the price going down, but you have that control of when and how that would affect you, right? So what we talked about last week, of course, was this DeFi contagion, which was saying that analysts warn of staked Ether depegging from Ethereum by 50%. The reason why this is relevant is because, once again, pretty much all of decentralized finance is powered by Ethereum at this point. And if you have essentially Ethereum having its own staked wrapping on basically on top of itself via a smart contract start to depeg, you're going to start to devalue everything else that is basically wrapped within the Ethereum network. That does mean pretty much all the rest of the tokens, any versions of those tokens that represent other coins on the network, even Bitcoin, because you do have Bitcoin wrapped Ethereum that is being, basically added to liquidity within the networks. It won't affect it as much. We'll kind of go into why here in a little bit, but basically what this article goes over is the fact that what they were worried about is essentially the way these centralized exchanges or centralized DeFi options like Lido, like Celsius, would essentially not be able to withdraw their Ethereum without the merge taking place. And therefore, once people started pulling out the ST ETH, which is basically a version of ETH that represents a staked portion of Ethereum, that you would depeg that Ethereum. It's very confusing. I understand. I was going to draw up a little diagram here, but I really didn't have time. I wanted to get this news out to you guys. All you really need to understand at this point is that essentially imagine that you had a safe that you put all of the Ethereum into, and then outside of that safe, you had essentially basically pieces of paper that represented that Ethereum that was locked into the safe. And you take those pieces of paper and you sell it to everybody at the current price value of Ethereum that's locked up in the safe. And then you lose the code to the safe, and now you don't have access to it, and everybody starts selling the paper representation of that Ethereum that you have locked in the safe, right? Well, at that point, that representation of Ethereum loses trust and then starts to lose its value. not in relation to the price of Ethereum, but in relation to the fact that it's not actually backed by anything, because at this point, the company that has been custodying that staked Ethereum is not able to pull it out of the safe to then obviously liquidate it to back the staked Ethereum that everybody else is selling. This is the number one problem that is happening here, and why companies like Celsius are going to be pausing withdrawals. Pretty much all the centralized companies will be. The problem is that their basis was on the fact that they were going to be able to unlock this and start withdrawing the staked Ethereum post-merge, right? Once Ethereum moves to proof of stake, the idea was that you were going to be able to liquidate and withdraw the staked Ethereum, and then they would be able to back up those paper copies, essentially, those representations, the tokens on the network that say they're staked Ethereum, with real Ethereum, and therefore there would be nothing wrong. The problem with this, at the end of the day, that I kept bringing up last week that is super relevant, is regardless of the merge, you aren't going to be able to actually withdraw that staked Ethereum right on merge day. And for whatever reason, it took a long time for a lot of these companies to start realizing this. So they've been staking Ethereum on the Beacon chain, right? And they've been selling people basically staked versions like coupons, saying, you know, it's representing this ETH that we have staked. And at the end of the day, they aren't even going to be able to withdraw it once that happens. And this is coming from, of course, Tim Biko's GitHub and the ETH roadmap. And you can see right here, withdrawals will not be enabled at the merge. They will come in the fork afterwards. So at this point, we don't know when that fork would be, but it's safe to basically assume that at this point, neither do the companies that have been selling basically these false securities at this point, regardless of what they like to say at the bottom of their posts about, not constituting an offer, a solicitation to buy any securities. That's essentially what they've created here with STETH. And the thing is like, this isn't good for anybody in the entire cryptocurrency market, because once again, like I said, all of the Ethereum, or all of the decentralized finance that's been going on has been powered by Ethereum. So this collapses pretty much all of decentralized finance. And I don't like to hop into a ton of FUD here, but if I'm looking at this completely objectively, I don't see how this ends up surviving. This does look like basically a Luna UST hit, but times 1,000, because if Ethereum ends up taking a huge hit on price, it affects all of the pairings within DeFi. It affects all of the centralized exchanges. It eventually affects, of course, all of the decentralized portions like Uniswap, whatever it may be. And the bottom comes out, right? And everything that's on there that's been representing other coins will start depegging as well. So Bitcoin, wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum will depeg from Bitcoin, right? Wrapped, you name it. Wrapped Binance Smart Chain or BNB depegs. They all start depegging from the real currencies. And as people start to try to push it up, the only good news essentially, as people start to try to push it up, it gets worse. And the only good news is that possibly cryptos that still have their own chain, their own sovereignty, separate from Ethereum, kind of survive this to a certain extent. There are a lot that even run, like, just to be frank, stuff like parallel assets of Flux, stuff like that are going to be affected by this, right? So no matter like what you think is reality and if this is really going to happen, I have to tell you, like, it doesn't look good, right? And I also know that in the bottom of this video, we're probably going to be like, quit spreading FUD and blah, blah, blah. But I don't see a way out of this unless, of course, you end up having the merge accelerated, and not just the merge, but specifically the merge has to get accelerated because you have to start having the beacon layer or the beacon chain obviously work with the execution layer. So consensus layer and execution layer. And then you have to get the fork out there to allow withdrawals. The faster that happens, the less impact this will have. The longer this takes, the more impact this will have over the entire industry. And I think a lot of these companies are just realizing it now. And that's coming from a miner, right? That's coming from somebody that is profiting off of basically confirming blocks on the Ethereum blockchain via proof of work. And I don't know that the future of Ethereum on proof of stake is the way to go. And I highly doubt it from my personal perspective because of a lot of other issues with proof of stake. But what I can tell you is if that doesn't happen and withdrawals don't happen, the market can't support it. And you will see a complete collapse of all of the centralized services that are trying to basically offer the ability to pool their Ethereum or pool the staking for the Ethereum. And that's going to be a huge problem. That's 10% of the total supply of ETH just basically getting depegged. And that's going to be absolutely devastating. So from my perspective, like if I look at this completely objectively, the merge needs to happen, but not just that. The withdrawals need to get enabled as quickly as possible. The problem is, like we've talked about before, is as soon as those withdrawals get re-enabled, either fear sets in or greed sets in, one or the other. And you basically have everybody that has staked Ethereum go ahead and dump that staked Ethereum, and you lose all security on the network because it's no longer being secured by the miners. It is now who are basically incentivized by price to put more hash and more security on the network. But now you have the inverse where you have essentially security being driven by people who are waiting for the price of the coin to go up. But it suffers on both sides of the market once you go to proof of stake. You're either going to have them dump it because they're in fear of it crashing, or you're going to have them dump it because it went up in price and really the returns over a year is not going to be that good. And the APYs that they're giving out on, options like Celsius, for example, getting up to 18.63% APY are not high enough, right? Or not low enough, excuse me. I mean, even if we look at Ethereum, which is up to 7.87%, really the bottom is 5%. So you're really looking at them promising these returns that are much lower than what's feasible to the actual Ethereum network. And I think really this is spurred on by proof of stake, by the merge, by the lack of withdrawals post-merge. And I think that it will have a huge ripple effect across the entire industry. And I think it's going to be pretty rough times. So hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm missing something here. If I am, let me know in the comment section below. But it's important to note that at the end of the day, not your keys, not your crypto for sure. Make sure you have that pulled out and in control so that you don't suffer this if you're not already suffering it. Because as far as I understand as well, Coinbase is shutting down those ETH withdrawals as well if you've been staking over there with Ethereum. So, as far as this is going to happen with Ethereum first, it's going to ripple across the rest of the industry. And your best bottom dollar bet, frankly, not financial advice, but is to at least control your keys. Then, secondary to that, my strategy would be controlling my keys for something like Bitcoin, right? And not being tied to Ethereum in any way, shape, or form at this point, for fear of course, this just turning into a Terra UST times 1,000. That's basically what the potential is here. And I'm just telling you guys the truth, how I see it. This does not look good. And this is really, like I said, this is all spurred on once again by Ethereum, the devs, what they've decided to do with it. And it doesn't look like there's a good way out, in my humble opinion. Let me know. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit the subscribe button for more, or check out this playlist for more crypto content related topics.